Hello, everyone. Welcome to Abnormal Investigations. I hope everybody's doing all right tonight. I'm actually only a minute late tonight, so I'm pretty happy about that. That's a pretty good timing for me. It's almost early. Looks like we got a lot of familiar faces in the chat tonight. We got Sharon Guy moderating. We got Nancy's in here. Figgy, good to see you. New England Dirt Roadie, good to see you. Charlie Nelson, good to see you. Mindy Weeks, it's good to see you. Looks like a lot of our normal faces in here. Shirley Nelson, good to see you. I think I might have said your name. I may not have. I don't know. Could have. Amy, good to see you. Michelle McGuire is in here tonight. Good to see you, Michelle. Mr. Clough is in here. Sir Clough is in here. And if nobody believes me, Jessica will attest to it. It is the Clough man himself. All right, guys. We got a pretty good show planned for you tonight. Randy was unable to make it, so sitting in for Randy tonight is going to be Jessie. She didn't have anything else to do, so I thought, you know what, we'll just throw her on here since she's lonely and doesn't have any friends and not very busy.
Yeah, thanks. Sure. How are you?
Since you're not busy tonight, we are going to snag you for the night.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to
You should be excited. You're on my show.
Blake. I said I'm excited to talk to Blake.
I mean, Clough could attest to that.
I'm sure he could attest to it.
It's going to be my new word. You can attest to it. Guys, see, I called out a few people: Amy Ton, Clough, Michelle, Figgy. We got a lot of our people in here. One thing I want to throw out there before we get started tonight: I took a phone call today, and I took an encounter from a man, and I ended up getting a lot more than what I bargained for. This was a roller coaster of emotions. I got angry. I got upset. He was angry, upset. It is one that does not have a good ending, and it will have to be placed on the Patreon. There is no way I can release it. It is just me narrating what I got from him. He did not want to come on because he does not want his family put out there as a story or, as a scary story passed around, because unfortunately there was someone that was unalived and very close to him. So it will be placed on the Patreon. All the Patreon members will get it. I'll get it out just as soon as I can. But I will warn you, it's not going to be for everybody. And it's a roller coaster of emotions to what this man went through. It actually happened in the panhandle of Oklahoma. So pretty interesting. That'll be coming out on Patreon. Don't forget, we got Tyler coming on Saturday. Belinda, if you're in the chat, I will trade you a rubber ducky for a New Zealand pine cone. We're going to see if I can make a deal with her. I think she should do that. Do it.
Are the New Zealand pine cones special?
I have a special idea that I want to do with one.
Oh.
I mean, the pine cones are not as good as the cob on the corn. But they're still in the same family, so they got to be good, right?
They have to be, yeah.
But here in America, we actually call it cob on, corn on the cob, not cob on the corn. But depends on if you got crabs too, right? But anyways, moving on. So we got Blake here tonight. We're gonna go ahead and bring Blake on the show. Everybody, welcome Blake.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, just enjoying the night.
It looks like it. You must be outside.
No, I'm actually in a vehicle right now in the garage, hanging out next to the fireplace and enjoying the nice, cool fall weather, actually.
Oh, I love this time of year. I do. This is one of my favorite times of year.
Yeah, I agree.
To me, it's kind of whenever I feel like I'm alive, when the heat's not just draining you and killing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you're out in the woods and camping and by the fire, the bugs are not eating your face away. It's actually nice to enjoy the fire because you're not sweating. It's not it's not annoying because you've been hot all day. So it's
Yeah.
the perfect time and season to go out and look for Bigfoot and have your encounters. October
Yes.
and hunting season being where a lot of people see Bigfoot, of course, more than any other season, actually.
I've wondered, do you think it's because of the time of the year that they're actually hunting and gathering? Also, you think for the winter time is why we have that run in with them?
Yeah, I think it's a couple factors like that. I think, well, if they store food and stuff, they have to get a little bit more food in their bellies and stuff. But I don't think they hibernate and stuff because um, great apes, primates, and humans are not built to hibernate like a bear would and stuff. There's a different process and gut biome and whole different biology going on with that. But uh, I think the increase of hunters going out, um, going off trail and stuff a little bit more than the common people who would normally hike and be out all seasons, like during summer and stuff. So hunters typically go off trail and stuff and actually encounter Sasquatch, um, almost in conflict with hunting, deer and stuff, actively um, going after each other's kind of prey, where you have examples of Sasquatch stealing deer and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe they think it's kind of a conflict on their end where, they think that's competition. And, that's why you see some of them, they show themselves to hunters and stuff to try to steal the deer or just to intimidate or just to let them know, like, hey, you're not the
Right,
big bad hunter that's actually out here. It's me. So
right,
I think it's a combination of everything. And of course, their curiosity and their intelligence because no other animal would ever try to do that to another apex predator unless you had to, you're not gonna go up to a bear and start screaming at it and be like, hey, I'm man, I'm here. you
right.
know but a Sasquatch will do that with us, with guns and stuff, which is just blows the mind because obviously they know what the risk they're taking is, so
Right.
it's incredible.
Another thing too. I wonder. You know, I hunt. I'm a hunter, and I know whenever I go out around this time of year and I start, trying to figure out where am I going to put my deer blind, where am I going to ambush. We look for food, shelter. You look for the basic things that they need, water. And then another thing is game trails. Most of the time I'm going to be set up about 50, 60 yards off of a game trail, waiting for them to come down their trail. And I've wondered sometimes, during the summertime, a lot of the normal people, when they go out and they enjoy the woods, they don't go deep, like you said, because they just go to the camping spots. They don't go through the poison ivy and walk through the trees and to find these game trails. But in the fall, you have a different kind of people out there. You have the hunters that they go into the bush, into the brush, and we follow the game trails. And I think that these things, I believe they use the game trails, but also I've been noticing pipelines. I've noticed pipelines seem to be really, really high traffic areas for these. And, I don't know, you probably know a lot about that. And you probably clear a lot of them. I know that Asplund is a tree service around here, VVC, Public Service. They clear a lot of these, wires, and they keep our electric, lines cleared. And then you got, the natural gas company, they cut theirs, and they fly a helicopter down it every month just to check it. So they have pretty much highways all the way through the woods that are kept and maintained for them that a lot of people don't even know's there.
Yeah, that's right. We used to have the same companies here. It did the same thing all year. And um, it is interesting because not only you guys have pipelines and stuff out there and stuff above ground, we have ditches and farm ditches. I'm sure you guys have canals and drainage ditches and stuff where they're reported going through and stuff. But oil pipelines, especially in different parts of the state, southwest and south, provide a unique kind of situation and stuff where they can hide around in travel and stand on those things and see for miles and miles in case like Oklahoma where it's flat and stuff. So And it's a one-way ticket, kind of just to know where you're going, especially if they've already been there. Which it seems to me like they already kind of mapped out every place. I know there's some researchers that think that they're just kind of mindlessly, quote unquote, migrating around and then just bump into cities and suburbs, and then they deal with that in the situational moment. But I think that it's a generational kind of a teaching that they know where to go and this, what cities are developing. Maybe they don't know about the new house on the block, but they obviously know about the development of cities and stuff. So, on all these trails and pipelines and electrical telephone wires and stuff, it's not like this is something new to them and stuff. So when you go in these areas to try to look for them and stuff, they're already there, like you said, set up, ready to ambush, and waiting for people and avoiding people, because that's the number one thing is, besides getting food and water and finding shelter, it's avoiding us at all costs. And sometimes that probably takes priority over a meal. If they have to skip a meal and stuff to avoid humans, I'm sure they will do that. Which, it shows their discipline, which is, I think, a lot. Very disciplined.
That was one of the reasons, growing up, my mom and all of us kids, we knew that, they didn't migrate, because even though winter would come, they would show up all year, except for in the winter, it was later. It would be later on. And we always, speculated. We didn't know, but we would always guess. We would always say, well, in the winter, they're later getting here because they move further back in the woods because there's not as much cover to hide. In the summer, you got the foliage and everything. You can hide, you can stay closer. But as, fall comes, the trees, they lose their leaves, the grass dies, it starts to lay over. So do they push further back? And then they traveled still to the house every night, but it was a lot later. Like they were having to travel further. And that was always kind of what we thought.
Yeah, winter is a mystery, especially here in the Great Lakes region where you have snow on the ground. There's ice. Like if there's tracks, you will be able to find. There's no snow coming down, no blizzard. You will be able to follow that for miles and miles and miles on a good weathered quality day where you're able to track like that. Now blizzard and stuff, tracks will disappear pretty fast. Won't really disappear, but they'll get covered up. So you could uncover them and dig them out, but it's a mystery still where exactly what's going on in winter, other than they're held up somewhere. And because whenever the weather turns real bad or it's warming up or melting and stuff or blizzards coming in, I've had activity. I have some stuff happen or changes in the environment where it's like the tracks, it didn't matter if the tracks were left behind or not, because they would got changed enough where no one could really track them or notice them, or they'd be covered with the snow, or they start to melt when it starts to heat it up and stuff, or it's raining out stuff. But it's in the middle of winter when, there's no weather changes and it's a nice sunny day for a whole week or two, where you could follow tracks for miles and miles and miles, and there's no tracks to be found and stuff. And I believe, especially with researching and having the conference and stuff, talking about a lot of these older legends from historical times and medieval times and pre-Christian times and over in China and stuff. They talk about these things like digging dens into the earth and stuff, like animals digging big dens, and old newspaper reportings talking about them raiding grave sites and stuff, and digging into graveyard sites and ripping bodies in half, just tossing them around. But actually, one report was it dug a den inside of the casket area. It dug a hole and dug a den and was living in there until the townspeople shoot it away after a couple of days, when they actually discovered oh my gosh, this thing is in there. But of course, it was more like it was a wild man and stuff. And so I think that they do dig dens and stuff. They're huddled up, especially when it starts to freeze over. You get a couple deer carcasses, and they're going to be good for a couple months till it gets above room temperature. But even to them, what's not good for us, above room temperature food for a couple hours, they can eat rotten food and stuff. I'm sure their gut biome's completely different. So refrigeration for them is kind of like, just like any other animal, they can eat rotten meat and not get sick, or I guess they just don't care.
If they're anything like my outside dog, he loves to roll in it while he eats it, and the older the better.
Yeah. Exactly. And there are reports of them, of course, smelling like that, dead, decaying meat. You're gonna have to have some kind of immunity to that if you want to play in and eat, roadkill that's festering with maggots and stuff like that. And some people were getting in the more demonic side with them, like dealing with the graveyards and making a home inside the graves and stuff. Talking about how the demon that confronted Jesus was in the tombs and stuff. It lived in the tombs of.
Oh wow! Yeah,
of the dead.
I never thought of that.
That is, it's what people are saying. I also heard a report of the Beast of Bray Road, the werewolf, said the name of the place where that demon lived. So, Golgotha or something. So, but that's again, something I need to look more into, because there are lots of people retelling that story, and that might be an add-in. But again, it is something that is kind of relevant when you have things going into graveyards, digging. There's a famous graveyard video of a suspected juvenile Sasquatch digging in a graveyard, going hardcore at it, and these mother and a little girl is pretty taken back by it, actually. And I don't know,
I remember seeing that video too.
That is interesting too. I mean, you hear a lot of dogman werewolf encounters, at graveyards also. And man, I don't know, because sometimes I kind of get on the fence sometimes. After speaking with the shaman, I didn't believe everything that they told me. But I was still, very honored that they seen me and they spoke to me. That was an honor. But whenever they started telling me Bigfoot, Dogman, same thing, and they started putting, their ancient knowledge to it, and they're not very argumentative. They don't allow you really to give your opinion. They tell it as is, because they said they lived with them, they spoke with them, they traded with them, they took their children, they took their women, they know what they are. That even, they spoke their language, they said, and not only spoke their language, but they knew their sign language. And he said in native tongue, they use sign language a lot when they speak. They will use their hands a lot whenever they speak. That they use sign language. And they said, the werewolf that we call the werewolf, they say was a skinwalker, a shapeshifter. They say that's a werewolf. And kind of goes to the American belief, I guess, because we believe that a man turns into this werewolf and then changes back. So I guess that would kind of be like a shapeshifter skinwalker. But then you talk about the Dogman, and the Dogman, they pretty much look at him as he's always a Dogman. He's never a man. He's never, changing. That's just what he is. He is a Dogman. Or what do they call it? The Gugway, I think is how they pronounced it. And I wish I could have stayed longer, but I mean, they lost me, because I mean, they would go into things that even I had never heard of. And my grandpa told a lot of stories, but these are people here in Oklahoma. They still live the old ways. They don't just talk, but they live that way still in the hills. And to them, when they tell you a story like how the pot was created, the Cherokee pot came from the mud dauber. And there's a big story to that. It's neat to hear, because they tell it as if it's not a made up story. It is something that was experienced by an elder that was passed down as is. That's what it was. And, they'll tell you, they're like, if you go out and you look for these things, you're going to find them. And it may not be what you want. You may not ever be able to get rid of it. And it made me think of that encounter, dude. And I don't know if there's anything to it. It wouldn't account for everything, but it did kind of make me wonder because down at my granny's, remember I told you this happened during my mom's time, so I wasn't born. But what happened to me whenever this happened wouldn't account for their time. But what was weird is the one night we did have all that going on, I did catch a guy hiding in the ditch. And that was pretty weird.
I mean, there's
That's-
a lot of weird stuff out there. With the Native American stuff, a lot of their stories, different tribes and stuff, it's always passed down as, experience and stuff, especially like here in Michigan, they have the Great Lakes region tribe, basically they have stories and stuff they pass down as an elder tribe, an elder experiencing this stuff and then teaching the seven grandfather teachings where Bigfoot's in that is Sabe and, the representation of honesty, of course. And there's a lot of tribes that have a lot of secrets they don't tell white people. They don't tell a lot of people in the tribe. It's only reserved for elders and those who are actually groomed to be the new elders and head of the tribes actually are bestowed upon like the ritual knowledge and dances, secret dances and songs. And usually in those are knowledge or maybe cryptic knowledge of these otherworldly entities and stuff, what they would say and stuff, because a lot of the time they would say it's a spiritual world and a lot of these things cross in between and stuff. Which is funny because a lot of cultures all around the world consider the spiritual world a reality and things crossing over and entities and possession and stuff. It's kind of a universal topic, which is really weird when you're separated by tens of thousands of miles and oceans and continents and time periods across the world and stuff, with cultures. But yet they all see similar entities, like giants or wild men or wild creatures that are hairy giant humanoid things or ghosts or spiritual flying sky monster creatures that come down and, are in flying discs and a whole host of, lost cryptids that we just don't know about. And it's very fascinating, but the more you kind of research, and especially when you look at all of the different names and cultures that they have for these creatures, there's a lot of similarities, especially with the wild men and giants and Bigfoot. There's a lot of stories, in fact. The similarities, the only non-similarities are sometimes these giants are not hairy like Bigfoot, and sometimes they have clubs, sometimes they dress up in clothes and have weapons and armor, but there are reports of Sasquatches having clothing and stuff like that. But they might be all connected and stuff. Lost remnants and things of these bygone eras that we used to talk about, like the Nephilim and the giants of old, where there are records of that. And I mean, what do you have names all over the planet. There's Almas, there's the Yeren, there's Yowies, there's the Yetis, and all throughout the Slavic regions, they have like the Larry and stuff, and Germanic regions, they have creatures, and there's something to it,
Oh,
But
yeah, there's kind of like, I don't know if I'm lucky or unlucky, but to have seen what I've seen, to be I guess what they call a knower, you're like, dude, I don't have to go out there no more and look because I know it's there, it's,
yeah,
because I've been with a lot of buddies, and I have one buddy, he didn't believe in it for a long time, and he coon hunted, and he was out in the woods all the time, and he's like, dude, I've been all over, I've never seen anything, until one night they were running the dogs, and something stepped out from behind a tree, and he sold these coon dogs, and he doesn't coon hunt no more. He's like,
That's sad.
dude, he's like, I can't handle that. It didn't do nothing to him. It didn't try to hurt him. It didn't yell at him. It didn't, do the inference. It didn't do none of that. It just stepped out, and that was it. He saw it, and that was it. He said, he left.
That's enough. I mean,
Yeah.
It's a primal fear.
Oh yeah. He said, no. He said, I can't do that. He said now we'll even talk, and he'll say, I can't even imagine going out in the woods and sleeping in my tent like I used to, just like throw the poles out, and go lay down and just crash out. He's like, because I didn't used to believe in that. And he's like, now that I know something is out there, and you're not going to win, in a fist fight. You're just not going to win.
Not a fist fight, no. I mean,
It's unfortunate, though, how many people actually go out and have no idea what's out there, and then when it happens, it just ruins everything for them.
Deer hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Deer hunters. I've heard many deer hunters, have went out and have seen things and won't go back, or heard something walk past them, and they'll say, I didn't see it, but what I heard, I know, was on two legs, and it was big, and I could hear it breathing, and I'm not going back down there, And a lot of them don't see it, but they just know that something passed through there that they don't want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, a great example of that is Kerry Arnold and his encounter. Of course, he's passed away, but if you guys look up Kerry Arnold's Bigfoot encounter and have him retelling it, he was that hunter. He was hunting deer and having all this weird activity going on that he couldn't put his thumb on it, but he was blaming the deers and stuff, and
right.
Of course the climax with his encounter where he got scared out of the woods, sold all his guns, stopped hunting, and for years dealt with this till, of course, he came out and told the story and had his own channel and started doing all the stuff. And it's very unfortunate we don't have him in the community, but that's a great example of someone who you can believe. I can attest to that because I was there. I was there with him. I was there in Florida, and this guy's like 6'5", and he was shaking. We're not even in the woods yet, and it's like you can tell like he definitely experienced something. It's like shaking him to his core. That's pretty traumatic. So this stuff does happen. It's no joke. It's all funny games, and it's all laughable to some people until if you're out there. Like you said, you're a knower. I already know what's out there and what could happen. And, I laugh at people who kind of snicker and smirk at you and kind of laugh at you because it's like, dude, you have no idea. You have just no clue until if that actually happened to you, then you'd be flooding back and you'd be about pissing your pants. And
oh yeah,
but
crying,
which we try not to do and stuff when we're out there because it can be pretty scary and stuff and dark and make sounds and all this and these wild creatures, obviously they're not human. It's like, although we like to try to put human qualities on them, they're not human. They're wild. They live out in the fucking woods. They don't wipe their ass with toilet paper. Like, they're not like us. They might have some qualities that we can work with, but even if they are people, they don't got toilet paper out there, bro.
Right. I mean,
they're different. Their whole mindset's different.
And we're in their world when we're out there. That's their, that's like, going from, the city, and then, you decide all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to go out in the woods and I'm going to go fight, a Navy SEAL or a Ranger or something. You go into their environment and, they have to survive every season, every sickness, every infection, every disease. Life is not easy. And, I don't know, I get weird thoughts sometimes when I'm out there. I'm like, what if, I'm out here walking and we have this false sense of security because, we're carrying an IR camera and we got a rifle or a handgun. And just what if runs through my mind. One of them throws a spear the size of a big oak tree branch, I mean,
Yeah. You're
you'd
done.
never hear
It's
it.
one and done.
Yeah, I mean, you would never hear it coming.
Mm-mm.
It would just be like, I mean, you would like literally be planted right there wherever it hit you.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, and that's a scary thought because you won't see it coming, and you pretty much never know. And I
Oh,
think
no.
you've got to remember, it's not like they're just because they don't interact with us or they don't like come out in the woods and scream and kill us every time we go out there. That doesn't mean that they like us. I think they're indifferent to us. We have good interaction with them. I think they're pretty cool about it. They're curious, obviously, but if you catch them on a bad day,
Yeah.
hungry, and you just messed up their hunt, and they're a little frustrated, and they just woke up and they're cranky, keep stacking all the
Yep.
stuff, you might not make it out. You might become the next meal. They might just say, hey, screw it. We'll just move to a different area while all these people start looking for this dumb buck.
Yeah.
This dumb buckaroo, This
I'm
dumb buck
always-
who's in the rut, like the rut, you get all dumb and squashified where you want to go and push and, you might not be thinking.
I
Pushing too
always
much
try to
has a
give-
cost.
give them an exit. That's what I always try to do. Give them a way out. Don't corner them. I think that cornering them would be the worst thing, to where they feel like, okay, we don't have an escape. We're going to have to go through him, and I try not to put them in that situation.
Well, I would say that would be for almost any creature or animal that's out there. You corner them. I couldn't imagine corner a Bigfoot and put them in a situation
Oh.
like that. And that's just
And normally there's more than one, probably.
game over.
I mean,
Yeah.
They could literally grab your buddy and use him as a club to beat you to death with. I mean,
Yeah, actually, it is no joke. On my conference, I did a display and I cut some big chunks of wood of a big club, and you ain't picking, at 50 pounds or 50 pounds plus, you can't swing it double-handed. But these are one-handed clubs, or chunk of wood that these things can throw at you. And
oh yeah,
a 50-pound club is nothing in the hands of these Bigfoots, and we do have to remember that it's a very modern notion of, these things are, friendly forest hippie giant things, and don't really want to hurt us. All around the world, Native American history, these talk about, their men stealing, women stealing, they steal kids. And, typically anything that steals kids, and doesn't return them, and typically, find them dead or eaten, is not typically something we want to tolerate, right? So, like, in modern times, just because we don't hear it on the news or the government or Trump's not talking about it, doesn't mean it doesn't actually still happen, because,
yeah. I think we're always on the menu.
Yeah. And the government, if they didn't know what was going on, they wouldn't be doing the job properly, which is,
Oh yeah.
And I think there's a lot more going on to it, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
a reason why they talk about aliens, but they won't talk about Bigfoot unless Bigfoot is a part of the aliens or demonic agenda. If you don't think aliens are real.
Well, the other night I was out boots on the ground and I ran into a pretty cool warden. At first, I thought he was going to be one of those. It was like, what in the hell is this guy doing out here with lights all over him, screaming in the woods? But he was coming up the road, and he spotlights me from the road, and I figure he thinks, I'm poaching, because I'm sure that's the first thing they think. I'm out there in the middle of the woods with a bright spotlight. And of course, he stops and he actually knew me. He's like, I know who you are. I know what you're doing. And I paused it and I was talking to him, and he's like, dude, if you're looking for what I think you're looking for down here, you better be careful, because you might just find it here. And I was like, so you believe in Bigfoot? Because most of them guys will blow it off.
Yeah.
He goes, it's hard not to believe in something you've seen. He said, get with me later and I'll give you some areas to go check out that our forestry people have trouble at. And he's like, you leave my name out of it and I'll give you some places. And I said, am I at a good spot? And he said, if you're looking for something, you'll find it right here. And I was surprised he even said that.
Yeah. Actually, we had that happen in Florida and stuff. Game warden kind of said, "Yeah, we know they're here," but he caught himself. He was kind of a young guy. There's
Right.
a lot of reports of the Rangers. If the Rangers weren't doing their job, they they wouldn't know about Bigfoot. But since they know what they're doing and they're pretty experienced outdoors and they're in these rugged areas, there's a lot of reports and experience with them, and pretty much why the Department of Interior, which is the umbrella that they would fall under, pretty much might actually have the full power and authority all over Bigfoot and stuff, because the Department of Interior does cover a lot of tribal stuff too, and national parks and wildlife and all of that, which includes possibly Bigfoot. But that's something that, again, if it's manageable, I'm sure that's a lot more doable than extreme prejudice and extermination of a whole species, or
Yeah.
Right.
whole who knows. There are reports of that I have got a couple of years ago that we were dropping bombs and making underground tunnels like Elon does. We make all these underground tunnels, and in these underground tunnels, they dig into these big cavern systems, and supposedly all of these Sasquatches are in like ants, and we've been dropping big ordnance down there that causes earthquakes here in Michigan and other various spots. This was reported into some military magazines and military sources of talk.
Randy said that, remember? Randy was talking about the war in the caves, remember? I don't know if Jesse was here. Randy talked about that. He said, they're having a battle with them. And sometimes, you wonder, are the wardens out looking for them, or are they managing them,
Yeah, I mean it's pretty interesting and stuff. Actually, there's people that think Space Force isn't really for space, although it's cover. Although the new battlefront is not extraterrestrial invaders, but terrestrial in inner Earth terrestrial battlegrounds in space and large domain warfare and stuff that we have never imagined and stuff. It's basically the Hollow Earth theory on steroids, I guess, because we haven't gone down there yet. But if they're dropping big enough bombs to cause earthquakes on the surface and they don't care because they think that's needed, there must be something
Right.
pretty heavy down there.
Well, I was listening to one guy talk the other night, and he was talking about, the Bible says it will be like in the days of Noah. And he said, he said that it's not going to come from the heavens this time. They're going to come from the earth. And he said, when I mean from the earth, he said, I'm talking DNA of the old. And our government is bringing them back. He said, they're going to bring back stuff that they're going to wish they didn't mess with.
Yeah. I think I just heard a interesting translation, I guess, basically of what Jesus said. In the days of, how would you know about the second coming? And he said, it'd be like the days of Noah, and there's supposedly the real Greek translation that theologians don't like to quote. I guess I need to look into this more because either it's real or it's not. Supposedly, it talks about that Jesus said, the locusts will come from the sky or something like that. But the other translation is that there will be monsters on the earth too. Monsters will arise. Things will come out of the heavens and monster will arise. So supposedly that gets left out in most translations. So it would be interesting if that was actually kind of true, because we are seeing monsters or cryptids arise, or
Mm-hmm.
aliens, right? Which are
Right.
some people think they're like the spirit of the principalities of the air and darkness and stuff, the things of the sky, the watchers and stuff like that, fallen angels and stuff like that, or spiritual entities. That just could do false miracles and stuff like that. But monsters, the Nephilim, giants, that Sasquatch technically is a giant, I guess, in that kind of archetype thing, especially with stealing people and uh, raping women and eating kids and stuff. The giants of old uh, feasted on kids and feasted on people, but especially babies. That's why they always target babies, and demonic forces go after babies, because that was the delicacy of the menu. When you look at the story of like Og, the giants and stuff, and the period before the flood and stuff, where the DNA corruption was running amok, and you had all these sinful natures and lust and greed and gluttony, and giants literally eating and stuff. And the Bible says that these giants were the men of renown, men of old and stuff. So like Hercules, the heroes, the gods like Zeus's, and the Titans and stuff like that. Actual
Mm-hmm.
giants, demigods, right? The Greeks themselves thought they were demigods, right? Half man, half god. And the Bible said, oh, yeah, they're the Nephilim. They are half angel, half human, demigod. So, I mean,
Zeus and Achilles, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that's all. If and it's very satanic stuff and very evil and stuff. And if you research how, the Christ and the saving and um, the deluding of the world through all these other religions, and you'll have all these random religions that in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of nowhere, that call for cannibalism to have better crops with weather and stuff like that. And then all these random things that pop up, and snake worship and giants, again, spiritual entities and demonic forces, evil spiritual entities that will possess you. And even the Native Americans with the seven grandfather teachings, which is basically the opposite of the seven deadly sins. Basically, I mean, it's kind of the opposite teaching. Teaching you seven
Right.
grandfather teachings of honesty, humility, love, courage, truth, and very different and stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very interesting. And then they have the stories of the giants attacking and killing them and slaughtering them and stuff. So it's very interesting. Even in Spain and in Catalonia and in different parts of Spain, they have giants, and these giants they talk about in the olden times. Um, they built these rock bridges and stuff that would go from Spain to Africa, and then eventually there's wars and stuff, and they got destroyed. And then these giants basically started getting more wild and stuff. They lost the ability to learn how to mine and learn how to smelt and make craftsmanship out of forging and stuff, and they became more wild and uh, basically Sasquatch like and troll like and stuff, and kidnap people and ate them. And sometimes they would have magical powers left over, and it's very reminiscent of what you have in Native American culture and other cultures around the world. It's almost like the Nephilim, as they've been diluted over the years, became more savage and wild and maybe more hairy, and lost a little bit of their abilities. But just like the little people, same thing.
Yeah.
All over, they have the same characteristics, magic powers, trickery. They're a trickster. Very common characteristic that is applied.
Yeah.
You know, my grandpa, he's full blood Cherokee. He talked about the little people, and he said, they helped them on the Trail of Tears, but also you didn't trust them. They wanted something in return for what they did, and so they were good and bad at the same time. And Ryan Tremblay got a question for you. He says, Blake, do you think people are mistakenly lumping Bigfoot into all indigenous folklore? Seems like people are assuming it's all Bigfoot stories.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Me and Ryan did a show on this actually, and did a couple shows on this. Yeah, actually, just because basically Native American folklore and legends, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of different tribes, and they basically have different stories of different entities that a lot of people group into Sasquatch because they're giant. They have a giant characteristic, or they're wild and they live in the woods and stuff. So like an example would be some a lot of Native Americans have different legends of like the woman of the woods, or the woman with the basket in the woods, or the deer lady. Basically, there's this entity. She's a woman. She has a big basket, and sometimes she is depicted as having a head of a deer, as known as the deer lady. Sometimes she's a giant Native American looking woman. Sometimes she's an ogre looking person. So she's always looped in with the Sasquatch, because there are some cultures, especially the West Coast, where she's depicted as a hairy Sasquatch with the lips protruding and doing the whistling, or the whooping of the lips, curled up where you see on their totem poles.
Ooh.
Some stories have this creature of being 200 foot tall, taller than the trees, and so not all of these stories of this woman of the woods are depicting of a Sasquatch. Some are depicting other entities and stuff. Another example would be, and not to throw shade on Kathy Strain, but in her book, North America Cannibal Giants, and or whatever her book is, basically she lumps in a lot of Native American stories as Sasquatch. One including, I think it's Iron Nose or Metal Nose, and this basically, it's a giant whose noses shoots out like Pinocchio to stab people, and it's made out of metal and stuff. So she lumps that in with Sasquatch. Another one has a hat, giant with a hat, and she basically says, that's the Native American tribes are misidentifying Sasquatch's crest with being a hat and stuff like that. So there's a lot of that. I think that's the biggest culprit, is her book lumping all of the stories together, and in fact, it actually made a lot of different tribes mad. And her cover of her book, the picture of this rock, the pictured rock with the Sasquatch-like creature on it, that really pissed off the tribe that she got that picture from and the stories from, because it's actually against their, I guess it would be their religious rights or their religious ceremonies to depict that picture. And in fact, that I can't remember the tribe. I don't want to get it wrong. It's in California. They got so mad at Kathy and stuff that they completely, on their website, changed the story from the creation story about that creature in the rock and stuff. And basically, long story short, it's in a creation story, and it has a very vital role as being like a scary creature that the first humans look at and don't know what to make of it. They changed that to, now that character is Coyote. So now Coyote helped create man, and they have some dialogue and stuff. So they completely changed that, wiped that from the internet, and won't tell people this because of the disrespect that book has caused. And basically, like we talked about earlier, they have secret dances and religious songs and information that they only tell their elders. So when they told Kathy a little bit about it, and then she told all of us and wrote a book and kind of,
Wow.
you know, it could have gone a lot better. Basically, they are reluctant to even talk about it. They're shunning anyone who wants to learn about it and stuff. So it's unfortunate because, you know, in that story, this creature is talking. It does have a benign cultural significance into creating humans, and there's other stories and stuff like that where same thing. So we are disrespecting a lot of cultures by lumping Sasquatch in with all these other things, and not respecting all these other entities that they're out there. And there's a lot of lake monsters, there's flying monsters, there's zombies, there's skeleton creatures, there's golems and ice monsters like the Wendigo. There's a plethora, dozens of different scary creatures, more scary than Sasquatch, that are supernatural, spiritual, and otherworldly that we would laugh at because, you know, Sasquatch is like flesh and blood, and we can feel it and touch it and see it. So,
Ryan says, was it the Olon tribe in California?
I think it was like the Tulu, or I can't remember. All you have to do is look up Californian pictured rock of Sasquatch, or Sasquatch pictured rock, and it's basically one of the first ones that pop up because it's the only one in the West Coast that we know of and stuff. And it's very good detailed. It has very good detail and stuff. I'm sure you could pull up very fast, but the tribe should be associated with it.
Talking about the thing with the nose, it almost reminded me of the spear finger.
Yeah,
we get that.
Yeah,
that's a big story here in Oklahoma by the natives, the spear finger. When you was talking about the deer lady, that's another Cherokee story here in Oklahoma. They talk about the basket, and if you ever catch her and you're able to look into the basket, they say if you look into the basket, what she's carrying will be your head when you look into it, and then you never come back.
Yeah, because I mean, a lot of Native American stories are, you know, they're stories about what can happen and stuff. They're teaching. There are a lot of teaching moments and stuff. So basically, if you're able to look into the basket, basically you're already caught. You know,
right.
You're in the basket. You know, you're in the basket, and she's gonna eat you. That's what she's doing. Or it's kind of like Hansel and Gretel. You know,
yeah. Because I think a lot of the people that didn't understand the story, their thoughts were, "Oh my God, if the head in the basket, it looks like mine." No, it's really your head in the basket. You know. Another thing, you know, we were taught growing up was, you don't look out the window, you don't whistle at night. You know, I remember just growing up. You know, yeah, they had the stuff at Granny's and everything, but whenever dark time came, we didn't have to be told. It's kind of like we knew, like, okay, it's time to settle down. Granny's shutting the curtains, you know, she's going to lock the doors, and it probably didn't do any good at all. But she would take butter knives and she would stick them through the door facing, you know, like across the door. It probably wouldn't have stopped anything, but it made us feel safer. And, you know, she would do that, and she would sit on the couch, and we were just little. And she had a .32 caliber semi-automatic pistol that my grandpa had. It's a German .32. I have it now. It was left to me. And she would leave the .32 on the arm of her chair, and she had a butcher knife in the side of the couch. And then she would smoke her Camels, you know, and have her coffee sitting in the ashtray. And she'd always say, "It ain't going to come in here. If it does, you know, it'll wish it didn't." But some nights were not so bad. Some nights I didn't want to be there, dude. I wanted to go home. Me and my cousin, I mean, yeah, there was times, I'll admit it, we would cry, because when something's beating on the door and you hear it breathing like that, you out in the middle of nowhere. Back then, we had no cell phones. We didn't know what a cell phone was. We had a party line phone. You know, it was like check, 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 check. There was no 911. It was, you call the sheriff's department. Whoever was on duty that night got a call at home. They had to get up, get dressed, and then drive to you. I mean, it was scary. We hated it. I hated it.
Yeah, definitely didn't want to come in to play with the toys with you. That's for sure.
It took my toy. Did you hear that where I talked about it took my toy? Was you able to hear that one?
I'm not sure.
There
It's
was
been a while.
an old building back behind my granny's house, and we weren't supposed to leave the yard. You know, we were supposed to stay in the yard, but the older kids, they would sneak off and they would go to what they called Swinging Bridge. It was an old bridge. It was on the cables over a creek's all it was, but we called it Swinging Bridge. And they would sneak down there and they would go down there and stay, and then they would come home. Well, one day, me and my cousin decided, we were a lot younger, was like, we're going to go to Swinging Bridge, you know. So we take off. We have no idea where it's at. We just know which way they walk. So we take off walking across the fields. We go down into the trees, and it's a bunch of persimmon trees in there. They're really, really thick. And we came upon like an old, I don't know, it's like an old, here in Oklahoma, we call it a pump house, probably, like an old little building, old little wooden building. And we came up on it and we was like, oh, wow, what, you know. So, of course, we go over and the door was shut and it had like a nail through a piece of wood that turned. So we open the door and we go inside. The weird thing is what was inside that little house. There was like odds and ends. There was like hammers and baby dolls and just, you know, bicycle parts and just like ribbons. Just didn't make just a bunch of junk. But sitting when you would go in the door on the right, there was one of those. I don't even know what you call them. It's one of them things. Mom has one. Back in the old days, you know, they would keep the water in them, and you pick it up and you pour the water in. You wash your hands in it or whatever. There was one of those sitting on the right hand side as you go in the door. I looked at it, and sitting in the side of that was a little toy gun that was mine, that was taken from my granny's backyard. And that freaked me out because
That could be freaky.
something had come up in her yard and took my little gun, because I used to get on the propane tank. That was our horse, you know, and it was all out there playing. And that's where I would leave that little gun, was underneath the pipe, the propane pipe, a good place to leave it. I'd stick it under there. And it came up missing. And I thought one of my cousins stole it. But it was in that little house, just sitting right inside of that little wash thing. And I wondered, was something grabbing things, and is that where it was keeping it?
And for what reason? You know, there's a couple of different stories of these little stockpile caches of especially some old stuff, some old guns and rifles and clothing and stuff too. It's like, well, what happened to the person where clothing isn't on the person anymore?
P5FOFO.
Yeah, actually, there's a newspaper reporting. I have, and I can't remember exactly. I think it was there's a couple in Texas, and I think this one was out in Oregon or California or something. Or this might have been Mexico, actually. Basically, they were townspeople getting reports of this wild guy out in the woods disturbing the town, and they tracked him out to this cave, and they found him to be an actual wild guy, little hairy. They, basically it was never determined on if it was like a Sasquatch or a person, if this is like a caveman, Neanderthal looking thing. It was human enough that they didn't say it was like a monster, but in the cave with him was scraps of different pieces of items and stuff, and a dress of a woman who went missing 2 years earlier and stuff. And the woman is nowhere to be found, but the dress is in relatively good shape in the cave with this wild guy. And he doesn't speak, he doesn't talk, he's fully wild. He doesn't eat cooked food and stuff like that. And it's suspected that, he kidnapped her and did something with her. Obviously killed her, but there's lots of stories of that.
There was a man when I was growing up, and he lived over behind us in the little town I grew up in. And he was different. And when I mean different, like very uneducated, worse than me, the hillbilly. He was way worse. But he was very, very uneducated. And whenever I would go down to his house, I was probably 12, 13. Me and my cousin would go there. He would sit out. He was a very friendly guy. He would sit out in his yard, and he was always in like he would wear his Wranglers, no socks, no shoes, no shirt. The dude, dirty, crazy looking. He lived in a trailer house. I mean, it was horns hanging on it. He was just the. Everybody in town always talked bad on him, but he never bothered nobody. He done his own thing. And this dude, when we was over there, like he would take pork chops out of the package and sit there and just eat them, or hamburger meat. And the reason we would go there is because we like to watch him eat raw meat. We thought that was cool. But another reason we would go there is he would buy turtles from us. Those big old, he called them loggerhead turtles, but we would go catch them off the roads on our bikes, and he would buy them from us. And he would put them up on his tree. He had a big old, I don't know what it was, like a big nail, but it was sharpened on the back end too. And he would put them up there, and he would skin those turtles, and we'd watch him, and he would make turtle soup. But this guy like was barefooted, and he would walk through the woods. The thorns, it didn't matter. He would just walk anywhere barefooted, and it didn't bother him. I mean, and he would just go everywhere.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we're made to actually do that and stuff. Wearing shoes and socks isn't natural for humans and stuff. That's why our feet actually get deformed, actually, because of wearing shoes and stuff. You're supposed to be out in the woods, and your feet are supposed to be spread out. Your toes are supposed to spread out because you're supposed to be able to grip the ground and stuff. And everything hurts and stuff because you don't have calluses on the bottom of your feet to
Right.
toughen you up. And
I remember.
it's why some Sasquatches are reported to steal your shoes and take your socks off because they know that
Oh,
you're a little weak on the bottom of your foot.
yeah, it's gonna slow you down.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
Oh, could you imagine sticking on what are they called? Those thorn trees. I can't remember the exact name of them. Run one of those through your foot.
Oh, like briars and stuff. Yeah.
I can't. Oh, honey locusts. You have those
Yeah.
up there?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, those are real fun. My dad was a fireman, and he was fighting a fire one time and didn't see it, and he ran into it, and he ran one just above his knee, man, all the way.
Yeah, you gotta be careful because if you get punctured and stuff on them, they have this little like fungus on them, and you can get kind of sick from it.
yeah.
I know them things are huge. I think they're like red in the fall. They turn like real red looking for a little while. Then they turn back to like that brown looking. So you had an experience maybe or something. Do you have something happen?
Yeah, we had the conference and stuff, and we had a camp out afterwards, and went out to an area during the daytime. We went out the Friday night and stuff to an area and did some calls, but nothing really happened. Although the female I was with thought she seen a flash of light or something that was in the tree and stuff, and I kind of dismissed it. I was like, maybe it's lightning bugs or something, just because.
As a
Most of the
woman.
time, it probably is nothing, but because nothing else was going on and couldn't hear nothing. Sent some coyotes off, but we went out the next day and stuff with her husband and stuff. Went out to this area and started showing them places where we actually had some older activity, and I was taking them to see some tree manipulation, and we actually got to this point where they pointed it out. The husband, who kind of is a builder, and he kind of thought it was a little weird, and they kind of looked and thought it was kind of like almost like a dome kind of nest looking thing, because it was weird. It was all these sticks that were woven in between, going up and over, down underneath, and up again, and caught their eye and stuff. And we continued down the trail, and we started hearing stuff. Actually, started hearing tree knocks and minor vocalization. I was hearing some of it. Tracy was hearing some of it, and her husband was hearing most of it because he was the last guy in the line. And I'm talking to Tracy, and we're I got this all recorded. Unfortunately, fall, uh, all the leaves are on the ground. They're very crunchy. So the audio is there. It's just fine tuning it and going through it and eliminating that background noise. But there are some faint knocks, and it really got Dan going, like and I even said, and I love doing this. It's like, okay, so we're hearing stuff in this area. Let's go start walking this way, 100 yards, 200 yards. An animal's not going to follow you, right? So, but we walked and we had the tree knocks and stuff continue to follow us. It was really getting them kind of like, opened eye, like, oh my gosh, what the heck? And so we went back that night and started getting right out of the truck. And of course, I'm trying to get all my equipment going. I should have already had it running. I don't have the audio recorder going. And I'm fidgeting to get more batteries for my camera so that I can use. And all of a sudden, across the road, we hear this woo, woo. And it was loud and it was so perfect. And all I could do is look down at my recorder that it's not turned on.
You're right.
Of course. And Dan instantly, he's like, "Did you guys hear that?" He's like, "Is that real?" He's like, I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Are you serious?" Like, "Yeah, man, come on, let's go. We got a long ways. Let's just get started." And from then on out, we started basically hearing stuff, more knocks and vocalization. And Dan looked up and seen a flash of light, seen some light in a tree and stuff, and he was doing this back and forth before he told us. And then was very adamant that he's seen this orb in this tree, and he's seen it again in a different spot. The same thing with his wife the previous night. So I was like, oh man, maybe I was feeling bad. I was like, maybe you didn't see a firefly or something. And so we walked further down the trail, walked back, and got some more interesting stuff. So hopefully, I've been looking at stuff, and there's some stuff that's there, but that's the only downside of fall is all the crunchiness and stuff. And there's times I'm blabbering away, I'm talking, and there's a knock. Stuff like in the daytime, we were almost back to the car, the truck. Dan stops us. He's like, "Did you guys hear that? There was like this rocket thrown right behind us." And I was like, "No," because me and Tracy are talking. But in that moment, as soon as I stopped saying that, this other rock behind Dan on the other side of the trail just bam hits the ground, and me and Tracy hear it, and Dan doesn't hear it. And we're looking, it's like, wow, that was pretty cool. So like when we came back that night, those two whoops right across the road was really letting us know, like, oh hey, it's you guys again. And so it blew their minds, even if the audio is not good on the recorder, it doesn't matter because it blew their minds. They had a wonderful time, and that's what it's about too. It's trying to spread the awareness. If you're gonna go out there, try to have a little fun and experience it safely, which is what we did, and of course gets them thinking of the possibilities. And Dan told me his encounter that he had something growling at him in the cornfield when he was taking a whiz and stuff, something growling at him. He's like, oh, okay. better get back to the house and stuff. And his UFO sighting, of course. But yeah, so that was the newest stuff that has just happened. That was September 26th, the 27th.
Oh,
wow. I'm glad you said that because now I got some questions. On my boots on the ground that I've been doing, you mentioned that y'all were by a cornfield, right?
Yeah, there was a cornfield there. Yeah.
I'll send you some photos later. Where I'm at, I'm by a huge cornfield. I'm talking like this thing is huge, and it connects to the to the creek that I'm going up and down. Whenever you was talking about seeing that flash of light, I've only had it happen to me twice, and I think Jesse's seen it. whenever I was out and I was walking, whenever we was having these, whenever it was like somebody took my photograph from above me. It doesn't last long. It's just like a flash of light. It was just like it gets your attention, but it's not long enough where you can actually tell where it came from. I've had it happen to me twice, and it's weird. I mean, I've had it happen to me in tree cover, and I've had it happen to me in the opening when I was walking down the trail. But it's just like it's probably not as bright as the old camera flash used to be. Probably it's dimmer, but it's enough that you notice the flash. There's a flash. And I've been having that happen down there.
Yeah. I've seen some lights in the woods and stuff, flashes of different stuff. I can't really explain. One time when there was a light on the ground that we could see. You see in the camera and stuff, but you couldn't see it with our naked eyes. But when you look at the camera, it's there and stuff. And we went right to it. When we walk by, it's gone. When you walk away from it, you can see it again. And I don't know. There's some weird stuff out there. I know there's a Florida researcher who claimed that he's seen stealth drones, basically. Well, he at first he didn't know what it was, but when I started talking to him, about stealth technology and stealth drones, that maybe there are these stealth drones out there that you don't see on thermal and stuff or on IR and stuff, because they are able to regulate their heat flow and stuff. And the only reason he noticed them is because they were shining IR lights down out of the sky, and he picked them up out of his IR light. But then they would shut off and stuff, right? So, like, maybe that's going on. Also, there's some very small drones and whatever the U.S. government isn't telling the public that I'm sure is crazy that's out there. But
well, now that you're saying that, Jesse and a lot of people said, and they said this in the chat, that they was hearing a humming.
Mm-hmm.
oh, yeah.
Well, when that flash went off, you could hear the click, and that's why when I went back to even watch like the live stream, you couldn't see the flash the second time when you actually rewatched the video. The flash was gone, but you could still hear that click.
And a buddy of mine told me he works for the police department, and he flies the drone for the police department, and he talks to. We don't have a helicopter here, but we got one that comes out of Tulsa, and he was talking about the cornfield, and he's like, if they're ever chasing you, the best place you can run is into a cornfield, because their IR stuff, he said, really sucks looking into a cornfield, because corn releases a lot of heat. And he said it's hard for us to look into a cornfield. So I wonder if that has anything to do with attracting them.
It depends. I mean, foliage and stuff can capture and radiate heat long after the sun goes down, which is pretty surprising.
And it's a food source. I mean, you can walk around in there and eat corn all night.
Oh, they're most definitely in the cornfield, because people don't really go in there, and the animals will bed down in there. A lot of animals go in the cornfield and stuff. So there's animals that will be in there. You just got to lay down, and you'll have turkeys and deer and stuff walk by you, coyotes and stuff. So you just snatch them and grab them. But there's not a lot of people that willingly go in the cornfield.
I don't.
Like, kids and teenagers will go play in the cornfield and stuff. But, like, typically on average, there's not, other than the farmer, there's no one that just randomly walks in the cornfield, right? So, like, it's a pretty safe place to be.
Dude,
for Bigfoot people, but like hunters and stuff. But other than that, generally, especially during August and September before hunting season, there's no one really in there. I think it's a good spot. There's food, everything else. But
well, it scares me because people say, Mike, you're so brave, you're so brave. I'll tell on myself. I'll straight tell on myself, and people can get a good laugh. I had permission from a farmer to go. He had been having some weird shit go on, dude. His employees that he hired, they were seeing things in the corn running as they were harvesting and doing their thing. Some of them quit. Some of them said, I'm not going back in there. There's some weird shit in there. And he's like, dude, I'll give you one night if you want to go in there and see what you can find. And I was like, all excited, dude. I was like, oh, I got my own place. I get to go down there and I'm going to catch something, right? Dude, I don't know what it was. When I walked in there, that was so ominous, dude. That cornfield,
Mhm.
I couldn't bring myself to walk through it. I walked the perimeter, but I just could not walk through it. I don't know if it was watching all the
Yeah.
scary movies or, but I was like, dude, if you go
Yeah.
in there, I mean, this thing was
It's
huge.
different.
You could get lost, and
Yeah.
there could be something right there, and you wouldn't know it until you was right by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people think it's like, oh, it's a cornfield. It's like, yeah, well, the corn's like 8 to 12 foot tall. Yeah, it's a little intimidating. You can't see anything, and everything's claustrophobic. And you remember watching the Sign movie, so the creatures
Oh, yeah.
standing in the cornfield, and then they just dip out, and it's like it is intimidating. People, especially
Children
by
of the
yourself.
Corn.
Yeah, it's like anything that's upright walking around in the cornfield, you're about to gonna piss yourself. Like it's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to contain yourself just because it's creepy.
Oh, I mean, I have all kinds of shit going through my head out there, dude. I was like,
Oh, it's natural.
is that scarecrow still there? Because they do have a scarecrow up out there in the middle of this damn cornfield. And, I know it ain't real, but just at nighttime, seeing that thing in the moon out there up in the middle of this cornfield, that's an eerie feeling.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I mean, I kept thinking,
it's different.
I'm going to look over there and the scarecrow is going to be gone.
Wasn't that
Yeah,
in
I
Jeepers
mean-
Creepers? It disappeared.
I'd be
that's another
gone.
one too. It's like that's not something we want to run to out there.
No.
No. You could be like Kaylee and run right to it. My God, that night was so crazy. She panicked, and I don't blame her. But she took off running because she got scared, and her first instinct was to try to run to the vehicle. But whatever it was between us and the vehicle, and she was running like right at it. So
Yeah, you got to give her credit. She keeps going back out there though. It's especially having some experiences. It's props
she's
to her.
she's done now. I don't know if you saw her did you see our last Boots on the Ground with her?
I mean,
where
I guess
she
not if she got scared enough to not go back out now.
she's done. What was it? Probably 3 weeks ago, maybe something like that. I took Kaylee out, and Kaylee can whistle like really super loud. I can't whistle that well. And we got down there, and it's hard to whistle loud when you only got 3 teeth. So we got down there, and I'm standing on the bridge. And while we're standing on the bridge, it wasn't bad. Okay, this is one of them nights where nothing was happening. It was a dead night. It was boring. We even walked down the creek. We walked quite a ways, and I had that feeling like, I don't know. We got to this old dead tree, and nothing had happened, and I didn't have a bad feeling, but I had that feeling like probably shouldn't go any further. Probably you've went far enough. And I told Kaylee, I was like, okay, let's kind of turn around and start, making our way back. It wasn't because I was afraid. I just had that feeling, and I'm glad I did. We got up to the dead end road, and we get up on top of there's kind of an incline up to the road. So we get up there, and I told Kaylee, I said, why don't you walk to the old bridge? I'll stand here, and when you get over there, whistle over the water loud like you whistle, because I can't whistle like she does. And I was probably 20, 30 yards from her. I was far enough away, and it was clear enough that if something would have came after her, I felt comfortable that I could take care of whatever it was at that distance with what I had. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching her. I'm running my IR, kind of checking, the wood line and the water and all. And she does her whistle. And this is all live. It's on the video. She pinches her lips or whatever she does, and she whistles really super loud. And nothing happens at first, but then, oh my God, I don't know what it was, dude. Something yelled back, kind of, was like a yell. I don't know how you would explain it, Jesse. Just a yell. But after it done it, it was like two of them started cackling with each other. It was like like they started talking. She ran to me. She was upset. It really scared her. And I told her, okay, we'll leave. She was upset. She was done. So we get to the car. She gets in a vehicle. To the right of the vehicle, there's woodland out there. And we get in, and I thought, you know what? We're in the car. We're pretty much safe. I rolled her window down about 6 inches. I said, whistle one more time and see if it will call back to you. Because I was recording and I was wanting to catch it really good. And she's like, no, Dad, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. And I was like, come on. And I drove the car probably 30 yards, and then I stopped, and I was like, just do it one time, just playing around with her. And the next thing I know, she turns in the front. I drive a Dodge Durango. She turns in the front seat toward me. She goes into the fetal position. She started crying, saying, go, Dad, go. And she was pointing she had the camera at the time on the pole, this pole right here. We carry it on this pole. And she had it on this pole. And she had pointed it down at the floorboard because she's now in the fetal position facing me. She's screaming for me to go. She's crying. She's physically, crying. And so I don't question it. She's seen anything. So my first thought was, whenever I worked, I knew that when something happens, they always told us, whenever I was trained, get it on camera. If somebody kills you, if you're shot, whatever, get it on camera. Give us something to go by. So I have people that stalk me also, so I never know if it's somebody or something. So I grabbed the camera from her, and I hold it at the front windshield, down the road and kind of where she was looking. And I accelerated, and we left out of there really fast. Well, she told me what she seen was something that was a grayish color, she said. She said it was running. Now, the road we went down, it kind of has like a curve to it. It kind of curves around. And she said it was running like it was going to try to cut us off in the vehicle. And it was on all fours. She said it was long, shaggy, gray hair, but she said it had no head. And later, after we reviewed the footage, I think Jesse might have found it. You can actually see something steps out into the roadway and then goes back as we're driving.
No, I think Kaylee found that one.
Was it Kaylee?
Yeah, it was the one behind the tree that I noticed.
Yeah.
Right next to it, actually.
There was something behind the tree also that moved.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared her bad, dude. You can tell even watching she was just upset at what she had seen.
Yeah. So I actually watched that live, and I remember the whistle when she was whistling, and you got the call back, because I remember thinking, dang, that did sound pretty good. But then I remember I passed out before you guys, because you guys usually are out there later than when I gotta go to work and stuff. So, but I do remember her whistling and getting that response and stuff, because I remember you guys were going out there a couple times where you guys were having activity and stuff. I was like, it's pretty good, and I thought that was really good, and I wanted to go back and stuff to it. But I didn't realize you guys had another incident after that. It's pretty. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of bad that she got scared and stuff, but I mean.
Oh, it run her.
At the same time, nothing really happened.
Right. It was just a weird, loud vocalization.
It's scary.
Now the weird thing is about that spot is I done, I think, 3 videos on that spot. Military went in there, Corps of Engineers, and they dug a huge hole. And nobody could figure out what they were doing. They put a guardhouse up. They wouldn't even let nobody down there. A buddy of mine, he snuck down there, a coon hunter, and he said there was big bones like down in this hole. And I ended up calling the museum over here and asked them, if they knew what they were doing. And the lady told me the only thing that she knew was they had found bones, and they had found pottery, old Native American pottery. and the Corps of Engineers had went in there and removed the pottery. And I asked her, I said, did they remove the bones? And this is exactly what she told me. She said, they don't have to remove the bones if it's not human. And I told her, I said, so I've been hearing that there was like some cryptid stuff down there, you know. I said, you know, a lot of things are being said. I was just playing it off. And she's like, well, if Bigfoot was down there, they wouldn't have to move him because he's not considered human. So by law, he would not have to be relocated. And she was serious as hell. And I was like, wow, that's. But you could never look because they went in there where they dug that hole, dude. They got the coal mine equipment down here. And I mean, they dug a hole. They filled it full of concrete, riprap, and everything, dozed it over, and then put big old white rock over the top of it.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was all, you know, it's illegal for us to dig into any Native American findings, artifacts, burial grounds, or anything. So even if you found a Bigfoot, you know, graveyard, if there's pottery or there's any cultural artifacts, and the government finds out, you're going to get slapped with a fine, possible jail time, prison time. Like, it's a big no-no. And I think it is because they don't want us to discover what really happened in North America, you know, the undiscovered world. It's not the new world. It's probably actually the old world.
We have a lot.
But
we have a lot of Native American graves around here, just unmarked graves that you can just go out and find.
But you can't dig into it if the government finds out. If you steal and stuff, like it's a big no because it's a big hush hush, you know. Smithsonian finding all the bodies. You can just look up all the newspaper reportings of old bones being found, giants, wild men, stuff like that, copper giants, copper axes being found that are many size bigger than what a normal human could wield and stuff. And
but you know, I always thought it was weird.
Don't want us to know.
This is the weird thing that was always weird to me. Okay, the lake that's by where I live used to be the city, and the lake, all it used to be was a river. For a lot of years back when my uncles and my mom and her mom and dad and all of them, whenever they used to fish that river before they flooded that into the big lake, that the lake now is huge, but before they flooded it, it was river bottoms. And they would see, you know, spook lights was not uncommon. Bigfoot was very common. And they had a thing down there that they said it looked like an owl man. There was an owl man deal. There was a goat man deal. You know, there was a frog looking man. But it was all talked about. And as I grew up, the older people that were moved from the old city and they was relocated into where the new city is now because they flooded it, they would tell me, even growing up, it never was like a funny ha-ha story. It was, if you boys go fishing in the dark, make sure you have a fire. Don't be stupid. Don't be down there being loud. Don't be yelling, you know. If you hear something, ignore it. Stay by the fire. We were told this, you know, don't go to Troll Bridge at night, you know, fish Troll Bridge during the daytime. They had their names for this stuff, but the weird thing always to me was when they flooded that, my uncle was a mortician at the time. When they flooded that, they flooded it so fast it actually had bodies floating out of places having to retrieve them. My thought was, why were they in such a hurry to flood that? There's a lot of Native American history there. There was the payment grounds were there where the soldiers traded with the Indians. You know, all kinds of that kind of stuff was down in there.
Yeah, actually, when you look up American history and development infrastructure, you'll notice that there's a lot of places that they decided to flood over for some reason. A lot of places here in Michigan, actually, there's a couple different places where they got flooded over, and completely changing the landscape, or literally draining one swamp and flooding a whole different area, submerging ancient forests underground and stuff. Very weird and stuff. A lot of places, I think, in Minnesota, the same way. Uh,
Same thing here too. Yeah.
the Hoover Dam and stuff, where they made that to flood parts of that area, supposedly where they were finding ancient artifacts that doesn't correlate with the Native American official story of hunter-gatherers or savages who never invented the wheel and have no sophisticated culture other than bedtime stories, basically, where they find a little bit more. And there are Native stories, a couple different ones where they talk about other types of people or humans more advanced that live inside of mountains and have magical boomsticks that shoot laser beams out and stuff. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but basically, there's a lot of stuff, and we find ancient coins from Rome and Viking swords and different artifacts in North America that belong all over the world in different time periods. So there was all that is documented. You can Google it up right now too.
I just found out, and I didn't know this till just recent, that here in Oklahoma, in southern Oklahoma, that there was some mounds down there that the Mothman has been reported there several times. I didn't know the Mothman was ever reported here. There's another place down there that's supposed to be, I guess, a pretty dangerous place. It's supposed to be some land that the Native Americans say that there is portals all over it, and people go missing there all the time and are never found. And my buddy's like, "Would you go down there?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know if I would or not, really." I mean, there's like bunches of people that go there that just vanish.
Yeah, there's a lot of places, and there's hot spots all across North America and around the world, of course. But in North America, Mr. 411 kind of dives into that, but it's obviously incomplete. We don't know what's going on, but there are a lot of missing people for, I think, a variety of different reasons. Bigfoot probably is included. That disappear and ghost, things happen. And the natives would say, if you're on a lake, it could be a lake monster and there's a variety of different kinds, or a horned serpent, which is a big giant snake creature with horns like a deer sometimes, or which hasn't been a sight of that in hundreds of years. No white man has seen one of them. Well, there's supposedly some newspaper reportings of these things, but like a water panther here in the Great Lakes regions, they talk about this gigantic water beast that would fight the Thunderbird and stuff like that. They were enemies and stuff. Thunderbird would hunt these water creatures that were depicted basically as a big water panther or cat-like creature, or maybe like a dragon, similar features and stuff. But yet in modern times we don't really have those. I know in Hawaii they have the stories about giants and stuff. They're not Bigfoot, but they're giants, and these giants will drown you and stuff. In fact, they have a lot of weird drowning experiences. In World War II, there's a couple famous soldiers who went missing and found that they were drowned. And the one story is the soldier was swimming in these pools in Hawaii. There's a lot of these lagoons and pools of water and waterfalls with pools. The soldier's swimming, and the people on the surface seeing this gigantic thing come up to him, drag him down, and he's drowned. And the locals, the stories are, if you disrespect these giants, you disrespect the place, these things will go and swim and drown you, and then they go and disappear underneath the water in these caverns. And they have stories of them walking through with torches around the mountain, and if you hear them and stuff, you're supposed to basically piss on yourself, degrade yourself. So they kind of step over you and don't pay you no attention because you're that worthless to them, basically.
Kind of like this.
Yeah.
The Kappa. Have you heard the story of the Kappa, the Native American story of the Kappa? You know, the little turtle man that comes out of the water, and if you don't bow to him and show him respect, he drowns you.
There's a lot of lots of water spirits and stuff, and
Yeah,
mermaids, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Native
Oklahoma.
American stuff. There's, I don't know, dozens and dozens of different entities in Native American folklore.
In our folklore here is we're supposed to have a giant octopus that lives on our lake that drowns people, and that's that's been forever. You can look it up. It's a Ulagal Lake, and I think Eufaula Lake here in Oklahoma. I think Eufaula is supposed to be the largest man-made lake here in Oklahoma, and people have reported, jet skiing, been in their boats and seeing it under the water, come up and seeing one eye on each side of their boat. And people have talked about it grabbing them, and, swimmers drown that are really good swimmers for no reason. And they're found like really far from where they drowned, like way away in like backwater, and really weird.
Yeah, I mean, especially with a man-made lake, it's like how could some kind of aquatic cryptid, especially how would that get put into the lake and stuff like that, right? Or, but there are weird circumstances. There's this missing woman. She was missing up the Upper Peninsula of Michigan basically on this coastal beach, and she was found several dozen miles on this island that, I mean, even if you tried to swim there, unless you're an athletic freak, an average person's not going to go. And the likelihood of your body just washing up on that island, very unlikely. But this person was found and just determined. Oh yeah, nothing to see
Right.
here, folks. Hey, we found her, right? That's all that matters.
Yep. Well, they keep doing that to our lake too. Where I live, there's a whole lot of coal mining going on, and they make these really super deep pits. And when they're done with them, they go talk to the Corps of Engineers, and the Corps of Engineers like, yeah, sure, whatever. So they'll go in, dynamite it out, and just let the lake fill it in. And then you have this super deep hole that's got cave systems, where they've dug and blasted, and God knows where it all runs, and they just flood it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there's
There's
lots
no
of Bigfoot reports in those reservoirs and those quarries filled with water. Even there's actually reports of the Sasquatches diving into the water and just disappearing. It's like, well, where do they go?
right.
Obviously,
Yeah,
there's some entrance and escape plans and routes.
Look at a big old turtle though. They can run off into the water and not move. They just go down and set, and you can't see them. They just disappear because they just fit right in. It's like they're gone, but really they're just laying right there.
Yeah, I
And
always
That's
kind of.
what
Well,
if that's
in Native Americans talk about giant turtles that are in swamps too, that are, the size of Volkswagens or bigger, that do eat people. And I've been in swamps, and I've sunken in there. Turtles, they'll dig themselves into the dirt and the muck and get way down in there. And I've been stuck in the muck before, thinking, man, if a turtle's right here and it just bites me, like what the
it's
heck?
over.
But a big giant turtle, like, in the swamp, it's scary and dangerous too, because there's a lot of swamp monsters from around the world, and Sasquatches run into the swamp and they disappear, and it's like the swamp isn't an environment for like a great ape to like live and thrive in. Like, it's not solid ground. It's not hospitable. There's not a lot of things that we would take with a lot of comfort in that. But what I have discovered and stuff, and what you can read into GSA surveys and Department of Interior findings and stuff, is swamps actually have very rare and promote a very rare variety of different plants and stuff and produce biomes around it that promote very unique and rare habitats and plants that can't be found anywhere else. And some of the more ancient ecosystems and stuff, and plants thrives and stuff on the edge of these swamps and stuff. Basically, there's some studies and stuff that in swamps and stuff, there are certain places where you have very old growth plants, very luscious, rare species of plants and nutrients and stuff that you can't find in the middle of the woods, that you wouldn't find in these other environments. And it's very unique and stuff. So,
But could you imagine? I mean, you see that thing come out of the swamp, and he's got like moss and everything just hanging off of him, and you picture, it's wearing this like bone skeleton thing on or whatever. I mean, could you really fight something like that? Would how would you react? I mean, whenever I worked as an officer, I was an FTO, I was a field training officer, and we always kept our new officers with the field training officer because they may be stronger, younger and more fit and ready, but whenever it really hit the fan, that's when you learn what kind of officer you have. Can they cope? Can they react? Are they going to get sick? Are they going to pass out? Are they going to run? Because, I mean, there's people that can't even get out of the patrol car that will just freeze. I mean, they're everything that you would think you would want. They're in great shape. They're smart. They're top of the academy. But when it comes to that moment, they're no good. And, if you have somebody out there with you and something comes out like that, man, you got to sure hope that your buddy is going to be able to fight, or at least he's big enough that, they can chew on him for a while you get out of there.
Yeah, I mean, in almost every situation, you're at a disadvantage, and the Sasquatch is pretty much already guaranteed to win.
Yeah.
Guaranteed to, like, there's not, if you're by yourself especially, there's not many situations where, like, Sasquatch isn't going to be like, hey, I'm right here. Get your gun out, aim it at me, shoot me. I'm going to start running at you now. Most of the time, it's going to grab you when you're not looking. It's going to try to basically end you as fast as possible, which is going to probably snap your neck, grab you and shake you around a little bit until your neck goes pop, pop, and then throw you on the ground.
Kind of like Grandpa did the snake.
Yeah. Or it might just chuck a rock at you. Get close enough to just chuck a rock at you. And
or just beat you to death, like Planet of the Apes, just jumping on you and just beat you to death.
And my phone is almost dying. I'm at 7%, so we're gonna have to wrap this up. Right. But one interesting thing I've been finding about old newspaper reportings is there's a lot of attacks of these Sasquatches attacking people, but they, the people fight back, and they, the Sasquatch is fought off. I mean, a Sasquatch attacks and starts beating on this guy and roughing him up, but the guy fights the Sasquatch off, and the Sasquatch runs away. So I kind of find that very odd and stuff too, is you have a lot of attacks and a lot of survivors, and not brutal injuries, actually. Very, they got in a boxing match basically, but it's not like their faces caved in, half their heads, hair's ripped off. It's not like if you got in a fight with a chimp, they're very bad wounded. But these fights, it's like they got into a tussle with a wild man and stuff. It's like,
do you think they have the intelligence maybe to know that when they're fighting that person, that if they kill them, that they will be hunted?
Yeah, I mean, it's observation. They've seen it and stuff. And some tribes or clans and places, I'm sure they know how to get away with it because they've observed it. They know what people do. But with Flare and things coming more and more online with that, it's hard to get away. But either the government's going to have to keep covering it up, which I think they are, or eventually they're going to have to come out with the truth. Which
you come down there and
aliens come out first, but
you go down and find a guy wrapped around a tree several times. Somebody didn't do it.
Well, when that happens, government gets involved, and worry the public because
Yeah.
what do you want to do? Destroy the billion plus dollar industry of tourism in the national parks and wildlife places.
Well,
I
look
mean,
here. We
yeah.
found a suicide note. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went missing or bear attack. Oh, another
Yeah.
bear attack.
Hey, we're getting alligators here in Oklahoma, dude. They found another one, 13 foot.
Dang.
And we've never had alligators up here. They're starting to find 12 and 13 footers in our lakes and creeks.
Well, they used to be able to get up all the way up there through the Mississippi River back before they had all the dams and I guess spillways or whatever they have up there. But same thing with bull sharks. Bull sharks used to go all the way up to the Great Lakes through the Mississippi and through the Atlantic. And they could be found in river systems through Oklahoma and East
Makes
Texas
me wonder.
And all that stuff. You never know.
do I really still want that kayak?
Yeah. I'm on 3%, guys, so I'm definitely going to have to get
Yep.
going.
Hey, Blake,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and tell everybody where to find you, man, what you got going on real quick, too, so they can go support you.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube and Facebook and all that with the Lost Cryptids Conservatory. Of course, we'll be doing more stuff, having another year planned. We're doing a winter camping trip, hopefully planned in January, where we're going to basically freeze our ass off, but I'll look at Bigfoot. Trying to survive, testing our limits. But yeah, we are going to basically freeze our butt off. But we're going to have fun and stuff. I should be going live, I think, maybe Tuesday or next week something. I got a couple of different shows lined up. Actually, I got a bunch of shows lined up and stuff, but we'll see if I can get it scheduled and keep the schedule. So.
And as always, man, you're welcome to share that on my page. You'll be pre-approved, so you can just share on my page anytime you want to. And it's an honor having you, bro. And I knew that you need to run. Your phone's about to die, but it's always an honor having you. And we'll have you back again soon, too.
Yeah, thank you. And good job, Jesse, on the work that you're doing. Appreciate it. Eyes are being opening wide with all the work that you're doing, I think.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't. Hats off to that mystery right there. But all right, guys, you have a good night. Thanks for having me.
Have a good night.
And God bless everyone who's watching the show.
God bless you too, man.
God bless.
All right, take care.
Right.
Oh man, that could have kept going. You know, I wasn't even paying attention to the time. I just talk about so many people in this cryptid community. I think this is important to say. Blake is one of the, I believe, knowledgeable people. A lot of knowledge. He has a lot of experience. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if he's not somebody that just totally has a big breakout sometime. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
A discovery. That's where I'd be looking. He always a pleasure, and he's always just so calm. Just, you know, not me. I mean, when we talked about that cornfield, I'm not going to lie and sit here and say, "Oh, I'm tough." You know, Anthony can attest to it. You know, I really was too afraid to walk inside of there that night. I'm not afraid to admit it. I did not feel safe. It felt wrong. Everything in me was telling me, don't go in there. It was not what I expected it to be. I expected it to be kind of like a walk through the woods, you know, and it was nothing like that. It was nothing like that. It was way, I don't even know how to explain it.
You're so much more enclosed too when you're walking through. I mean, even close to a cornfield. I mean, the difference between walking through an open area and a small little game trail where you're brushing right past through trees and you can't even see a foot into the woods. Yeah, it's a whole different feeling.
And I was afraid to go in there too because hell, I didn't know. I mean, am I going to go in there and find Abe in there with, you know, a cob on the corn? Because that's all he talks about. And I was like, you know, this is a big cornfield. I mean, there's no telling what he's doing in there or how many corn cobs he's got. And I didn't want to go in there and, he probably had his brother with him, or it might be his wife. I'm not sure. It's got a mustache, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to, I didn't want to go in there and end up getting hurt. No, it really was. It really is. On a serious note, when I looked at that, it was ominous, and I'm not talking like a cornfield. I think I sent you photos, right? You can attest to it how big it was.
Oh yeah.
The
Oh, it was
cornfield.
huge.
This
Yeah.
cornfield's huge. I mean, it's crazy big.
And it's not
And
a cornfield that is, I mean, like even the ones here are pretty, I mean, squared off. This was, no, you'd go in there, you could get lost within a heartbeat. That was way huge. And yeah.
yeah, this is miles. It's not
Mm-hmm.
acres. This thing is miles.
Mm-hmm.
And it connects to absolutely nothing. It connects
Mm-hmm.
to the woods. And
Mm-hmm.
it keeps going. I mean, if I was Bigfoot, I mean, I don't know about Dogman. I don't know if they eat corn or not, but Bigfoot, I would assume would. And if I was something trying to survive down there, you know, and I ate that, that's an easy dinner, like what Blake said.
Mm-hmm.
That's an easy place to go and hide and get other things that come in to eat it. Or, I mean, you got your vegetables, you got your meat coming right to you. But also, something could attack you in there and nobody would see what was going on.
Nope.
And where I'm at, there isn't anybody going to hear you yell. You can yell as loud as you want. And whenever we do finally get to collaborate, you're going to get to see just how remote some of these places are. Because if we get down there and we get in trouble, I mean, if we really get in trouble, there's nobody to call. You can call 911 all you want.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, these places are still like the old places. You get yourself in there, you got to get yourself out of there. Um, there's nothing there. Uh, the resources in our communities are not that big because we don't have post offices. We don't have, hospitals or infrastructure. We're just a spread out country, living society with small towns. But I mean, there's places down there that people probably have not walked in years. And, you know, if you had a kayak or a boat and had some friends or whatever, there's some places I'm sure that you could go explore that there's no telling what you would find. I mean, it's endless. And what's scary about it, to me, this is what's scary to me. The water bothers me in the daytime, but not near as much as it does at dark. Seeing that dark, black, dirty water out there, knowing that there's drop offs out there, there's old house foundations under there, there's old wells under there, fence rolls and trot lines that people's left, and tree lines and broken glass and pipe. Bodies, people are found drowned there every year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess alligators,
Yeah.
water moccasins, copperheads, you got all that. You don't know what's in those waters.
Right.
And once you get down there and that sun goes down, you don't want to be packing out of there in the middle of the night. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the worst idea ever, is to try to leave in the middle of the night, because you're breaking down camp, you're carrying stuff, you're preoccupied, you're moving with your gear, it's dark, you can't see. And down there's stumps just under the water. People knock their transits out all the time. People bend their motor shafts, knock holes in their boats. This is not a friendly part of the lake. It is definitely not the recreational part, and they will tell you that. This part of the lake is not meant for recreation. It is a flood control part of the lake. It's not meant to be inhabited.
Yeah.
So, pretty crazy. And we have another death this year. There was a person shot and killed at that place I've been telling
Mm.
everybody about,
Yeah.
and they haven't released any information. None.
That just happened, didn't it?
Yep. and there's no information out. And whenever I release this video coming out on Patreon, guys, I'm telling you, I took it today. It was very emotional. You Patreon people are going to get your October's encounters worth. When he started telling me this encounter, I thought it was going to be kind of the norm until he broke down. Whenever he broke down and we really got into the specifics of what happened, it's terrible. I couldn't put it on regular YouTube. He knew that. It'll have to be a Patreon. I'll probably release it in the next 3 days. I'll have to record it. But if you're on Patreon, you're going to get an encounter you'll probably never forget. And it's not for everybody. There is death in the story. And there's broken hearts. And there's what I should have done, could have done, woulda, coulda, shoulda, you know. It's a tough one. But I'm going to release it. He wants it released, and I'll release it within the next 3 days on our Patreon. So, yeah. Anything you'd like to add before we jump off tonight? We've got over 2 hours. I know you've got a busy day tomorrow. You got to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to reload my computer programs too, having some issues tonight. So
I have been too. I don't know what's going on. My computer crashed 3 times today.
yeah, it's strange though too, because I have a bunch of security stuff on my computer. So I don't know. It's weird. But no, yep, just yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There
Now,
was one
now,
thing.
look. Now Larry shows up. Buddy, that's 2 strikes. That's 2 strikes right there. 2 strikes.
Yeah.
I'm giving him 2 right off. And I got to pick on Larry. That's 2 strikes for Larry. Larry, that means that the rest of the week you only get a single meat burger, buddy. Single meat.
Oh man, that's gonna destroy him. Can't do that to Larry.
Hello, Smurfy. Good to see you.
Now I forgot what I was gonna say, but anyways, yeah, no, good show tonight. Always good talking with Blake. And,
Oh, yeah.
thanks for having me on, even though I didn't really contribute a whole lot tonight.
You're actually quiet.
Is that a shock?
I'm going to abstain. Enter my plea as abstaining from comment. I have nothing further to add.
Well, thanks for having me on tonight anyways.
I'm fine with that being placed on record.
Good seeing everybody and good being on, and yeah. God bless everyone. Take care.
All right, everybody. We appreciate y'all being here. Blake, again, it's an honor having you on. We'll have you on soon again. We appreciate you coming on, sharing your encounters. It's always a pleasure to have you. Don't forget, guys, Saturday night, we got Tyler is going to be on sharing his encounters. I'm looking very forward to that. Tyler's awesome, big supporter. And don't forget, Patreon members, in about 3 days, maybe sooner, you're going to get it. So if you're not Patreon, you'll want to be Patreon to hear this one. If that's something you think you can handle, it may not be for you. Just a warning. All right, guys, keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. Hunter, I love and I miss you, and I will fight for you every day. And just be reassured that our Father in heaven knows the truth, and he is working right now for you, and he is on your side. So his right hand has lifted, and I believe that judgment is upon them. Good night, guys. We'll see you on the next one. God bless.